We've spoken before about the changes to Ontario's auto insurance regulations, which include lower payouts and new criteria for catastrophic injuries. Imagine being in a life-altering collision just one day after those changes took effect. Adam Berry from Norfolk County was in a coma after a serious collision in June. 4 months later, he's struggling to regain his old life. Instead of being eligible for $2 million, he got $86,000 because his injuries aren't deemed catastrophic under the new rules. The CBC's Amanda Margison spoke with Adam and his wife Courtney about the collision, the payout, and what it means for them.
I mean, I'm expecting him home, at a certain time, and when he wasn't home, I started calling his cell phone. And then finally, the last time I called, the social worker at Hamilton General Hospital picked up the phone. I mean, I knew he was airlifted, so I knew it was bad. So there was a basal skull fracture. They knew there was a brain bleed, a broken forearm. His hand was broken femur, broken tibia and fibula, so that's the lower leg. Now that he's out of the hospital, nothing's covered by OHIP anymore. So this is where we're having to pull on the motor vehicle insurance. So he has $50,000 available for medical rehabilitation, and he has $36,000 for attendant care. But see, out of that $50,000, so Adam requires an adjustable bed. You're looking at, around $4,500. That comes out of that $50,000. You have occupational therapists coming in. There's a few $1,000s right there that comes out of that $50,000.
It's quite hard to accept. I can't walk, I can't play with the kids, I can't teach them how to ride a bike. I can't help with basic chores around the house, like dishes and cook, and sometimes it's a pretty hard pill to swallow. It's just a nightmare because you can't get what you need to get better.
How is he supposed to rehabilitate after these surgeries? At that point, do we have to sell the house in order to afford this therapy that he needs? How do you get better when there is no money there to do it?
That was Adam and Courtney Berry of Norfolk County. Personal injury lawyer Mike Smitiuch is representing them. We spoke with him back in May when we first covered the auto insurance changes, and he is with me in studio now. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
People are listening to the injuries that he sustained, the broken bones, the broken skull. He was in a coma. How is it that Adam Berry's injuries are not deemed catastrophic?
Well, sadly, if this accident had happened 24 hours before, he would have automatically have qualified. Adam had a rating of, it's called a Glasgow Coma Scale of 3. If you had a score of 9 or less 24 hours before, he automatically would have qualified. And the Glasgow Coma Scale is something that rates brain impairment. Adam had a fractured skull, as we heard, a brain bleed, and because the government enacted changes as of June 1st, and they said that no matter when your policy renews, this is the new definition, he no longer qualifies.
His wife had said that they treated Adam the same as someone who had injured their toe. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And that's the sad thing about this, that a person who breaks their toe is entitled to a combined $86,000 of benefits, and that's the category that Adam currently falls into. Now, to be clear, he may sometime down the road be deemed catastrophic, but that may be 2 years from now. In the meantime, the family is struggling financially and he's not getting the care that he deserves.
How much more injured would he have had to have been to get the designation?
It is hard to believe that with all those injuries that he suffered that he's not deemed catastrophic, but that's the reality. The people that would automatically qualify is someone who's rendered a quadriplegic. That's as bad as you can be. Someone who has had an amputation, lost a limb, someone who's lost vision in both eyes. It's those extreme cases where they will now automatically qualify. Someone who suffered a brain injury, it's much more complicated, and it remains to be seen whether he'll ever qualify at all.
We heard back in May that they made these changes to reduce premiums, so then benefits were reduced for some people. The coverage was reduced as well. But why did they change the definition of catastrophic injury?
Well, they say to keep it in line with medical advances, medical science, but the reality is just because you're deemed catastrophic doesn't mean it's a windfall, doesn't mean you automatically qualify and get $2 million. You have to prove, just like the person with the broken toe, that you need the therapy, the rehab. So it's not a payout. You don't get a check all at once. You still have to show that you need the benefits. So to me, it never made sense to restrict this definition, but that's what they've done.
So the care and the rehab that people like Adam needs is, it's not optional. They have to do it in order to get better. So how do they pay for this?
Well, this is the difficult circumstances. Courtney she works, but now she's had to cut back severely, so they don't have that income coming in. They've had to rely on family, friends. There have been fundraisers to contribute towards the treatment and care. It's very, very difficult. The other spin-off of this, the government, I don't think has really given this enough attention, is the downloading to OHIP and other services like that, because although OHIP doesn't cover a lot of the different rehab, you still have, you have more pain, you'll have to go to your doctor, you'll have to try to use CCAC, which is a community-based organization that's funded through the government. So there is a spin-off of this. So you have short-term gain in some circumstances where the premiums go down, but long-term pain in terms of the coverage.
Can they sue civilly to help get funds to finance the recovery?
They can, but that will take quite some time. This was not Adam's fault, this accident. Certainly they can sue, but the process, it's another issue with backlogs with courts and so forth. It could take 3 years before they ever see a penny from the lawsuit.
Yeah, and legal fees too, obviously.
That's right.
Do you foresee other families going through this?
I know of other families who are going through it. So since June 1st, people just aren't aware that these changes were being made, especially the catastrophic definition. So there are, Adam Berry is the prime example of this, of someone who's suffering from this, and it happened on the very first day. But there are others since that who've had the same thing happen to them.
Yeah, and probably a lot of people haven't paid a lot of attention to their insurance. What is your advice?
Well, my advice is to immediately call your broker, your insurance company. You can purchase optional benefits to enhance your coverage. The problem is that with the catastrophic impairment change, it was never communicated to the Berries. It was never properly communicated to other individuals. So how do you know you need the extra optional benefits if you don't know that they've been cut? So definitely go to your insurance company. Look at purchasing optional benefits.
We heard Courtney say that they're facing bankruptcy.
And that's the sad thing of this, that in order to make sure that he gets the care that he needs, they are having to cut corners every which way.
This can't be the intent of, the changes that were made. Have you received any response at all from the government?
Yes, I can tell you that Courtney and Adam met with their local MPP, and unfortunately he's with the opposite party, and he said essentially there's not a lot I can do. They also wrote to the finance minister, Souza, who is in charge of this portfolio. Never heard back at all. It's fallen on deaf ears.
Well, Mike Smitiuch, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you.
Mike Smitiuch is a personal injury lawyer, and he was talking